Radio shakka muna a Najeriya saurari WADR.
Beneganna ko hangadam WAD.
Libya to West Africa Democracy Radio.
Je suis à Dakar au Sénégal et j'écoute la WADR 94.9 FM.
Benegana wa Kilsime WADR. Leane West Africa Democracy Labaya.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
We are West Africa Democracy Radio.
94.9 FM.
Dakar, Senegal. It's you speaking.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Cotonou. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio. Broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ghana's President Mahama removes Chief Justice over misconduct. Senegal's President Faye calls for agricultural investment revolution in Africa.
Pour faire de la jeunesse africaine le moteur du développement agricole.
To make African youth the engine of agricultural development, we must ensure an education and training that meet the needs of a modern, intensive and sustainable agriculture.
De 10% du budget national à l'agriculture.
A Guinea's referendum campaign begins quietly amid opposition in silence. And Liberian volunteer teachers protest at president's residence over unpaid salaries.
So we are calling on our volunteers to not go to the classroom. And Maxim Baker is telling us that they cannot put people on the field in the middle of the budget year. That's the charade. They have lied to us. 9 years ago, they have told us they are paying, meaning they are not prepared for us to go on the field anytime soon. So until the ministry is ready for us to go on payroll, we'll walk out the classroom.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Well, let's begin in Ghana, where President John Dramani Mahama has dismissed Chief Justice Getro Tokono with immediate effect. A statement from the presidency says the move follows a committee report that found evidence of misconduct. President Mahama dismissed the now former Chief Justice acting under the 1992 Constitution. Tokono is Ghana's third female Chief Justice, had been under suspension since earlier this year. Now the detailed reports from Accra.
President John Dramani Mahama has officially removed Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokonu from her position with immediate effect, pursuant to Article 146, Clause 9 of Ghana's 1992 Constitution. This decision came after receiving a report from a committee of inquiry established under Article 146, Clause 6 to investigate a petition submitted by a Ghanaian citizen, Daniel Ofori, calling for the Chief Justice's removal. The committee, after examining the petition, extensive evidence and testimonies, concluded that the allegations of stated misbehavior under Article 146 Clause 1 had been sufficiently proven. Consequently, the committee recommended the Chief Justice's removal. The Constitution binds the President to act in accordance with these findings. Following the decision, former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tiayeboa expressed sadness but little surprise, suggesting the outcome was politically motivated and warning of the far-reaching consequences for the judiciary.
Looking at the current petition that has been used to remove the Chief Justice, I can say without any fear of contradiction that anyone who sits in that office as the Chief Justice will have the possibility of being removed based on text flimsy petition. That is my fear as a lawyer. We've destroyed the judiciary and posterity will not forgive us.
But Felix Kwachiofosu, the spokesperson to the President and Minister for Government Communications, insisted the removal was conducted strictly accordance with law.
One has to question the basis upon which we are saying that this whole proceeding was politically motivated. It is opposition to these proceedings and tacit support for the Chief Justice also politically motivated. Perhaps you should answer that. It is not fair to make these blanket statements without any basis. The Constitution of Ghana was written before President Mahama took office. And he, as a former Deputy Attorney General, is fully aware that aspects of Article 146 were invoked for the removal of the then chairperson of the Electoral Commission. He did not attribute political motivation for the use of Article 146 for the purpose of removing the Chief Justice. So why then does he then question the use of the same Article 146 for the removal of the Chief Justice based on petitions that were received, which petitions were taken through due process as prescribed by the Constitution?
He assured the public that the process followed constitutional requirements meticulously, emphasizing that both the petitioner and the Chief Justice were given full opportunity to present their cases before the committee. This, he says, was a demonstration of the transparency and fairness of the procedure. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
In Finland, Nigerian-born activist Simon Ekpa has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for terrorism-related offences and tax fraud. A Finnish court found that Ekpa supported the separatist push for Biafra, supply weapons by inciting violence online and backing armed groups. Ekpa, who denies the charges, was arrested in 2023 and has long been linked to the banned indigenous people of Biafra movement. Nigeria is now calling for his extradition, but it's not clear whether he will appeal the ruling. Well, Augustine Colley reports.
The Finnish court handed the Nigerian-born activist Simon Ekpa 6 years in prison for terrorism-related offences and tax fraud. The Pajat-Jaime District Court found that Ekpa, a Finnish citizen, had used illegal means to support the independence of Biafra, a region in southeastern Nigeria. Judges ruled that he helped supply weapons and explosives to armed groups and incited violence through online platforms. Ekpa, who previously served as a local councillor in the Finnish city of Lahti, has denied all charges. The court said his actions spanned from August 2021 to November 2024 and included the use of social media to encourage unrest in Nigeria. Authorities in Nigeria have long accused Ekpa of backing the banned separatist group known as the Indigenous People of Biafra, or APOB. In 2023, he was arrested at his home in Finland. APOB, originally a peaceful movement, launched an armed wing in 2020, claiming to protect Nigeria's Igbo ethnic group. The group has been linked to ongoing violence and instability in the southeast. Nigeria has requested Ekpa's extradition, arguing he should face justice in his country of origin. It remains unclear if he plans to appeal the Finnish court's decision.
Colley with that report. Meanwhile, at least 12 people have died in a canoe accident while fleeing an attack by armed groups in Zamfara State, Nigeria. The victims, mostly women and children, were attempting to cross a river when their boat capsized. WDR's Usman Omar reports from Abuja.
The tragedy happened late Friday in Damaga village in the Gumi local government area of Zamfara State. Residents say panic gripped the community after armed bandits were spotted moving with rustled cattle toward nearby Birnin Magaji district. In a rush to escape, some villagers, mainly women and children, boarded a canoe to cross the river. But their desperate attempt to flee turned tragic as the overloaded canoe capsized, killing at least 12 people. More than 20 others were rescued from the waters by local divers working alongside security forces. Police in Zamfara confirmed the incident via a statement on Saturday, saying the recovered bodies have since been buried according to Islamic rites. As of Sunday evening, search operations were still underway to determine whether more victims remain missing. The accident is the latest in a string of tragedies tied to worsening insecurity in Nigeria's northwest, where armed groups frequently raid communities, displacing thousands and intensifying the humanitarian crisis. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Osman Omar reporting from Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Back here in Senegal, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has reiterated the urgency of investing massively in agriculture on the African continent. He says only ambitious financial mobilization will make it possible to transform the continent's agricultural potential into a true engine of sovereignty and growth. The Senegalese president spoke on Monday during the opening of the 19th Forum on African Food Systems in Dakar. Addressing an audience of continental leaders and investors, President Faye called for a true revolution in agricultural investment to make Africa the world's food basket.
Pour faire de la jeunesse africaine le moteur du développement agricole,
To make African youth the engine of agricultural development, we must ensure an education and training that meet the needs of a modern, intensive and sustainable agriculture. They must then be responsible and even associated with the formulation of our agricultural policies. But that will not be enough. To transform agriculture sustainably, we must also invest massively in the modernization of tools and methods of production, the development of seeds and speculations adapted to climate change, water control, the development of agricultural value chains, including the local transformation of products, as well as digitization. Such a step will require the mobilization of substantial funds, as recalled by the 2023 Maputo Declaration, which recommends the allocation of at least 10% of the national budget to agriculture.
L'allocation au moins de 10% du budget national à l'agriculture.
President Diomaye Faye of Senegal. Meanwhile, elsewhere, volunteer teachers in Liberia staged a protest outside President Joseph Boakai's home Monday, accusing the government of failing to pay salaries promised since August. Over 3,700 teachers were approved for payroll placement, but organizers say not a single payment has been made. The teachers are now threatening to suspend classes if the issue is not resolved. Well, spokesperson Patrick Walker is the spokesperson of the volunteer teachers.
Our GOs are aware, the CEOs are aware, the Minister of Training are aware. It was last year, August, that the ministry sent a team of people to Boca Mission to do the vetting for the volunteers. And on that 3,000 plus person, they told us that they're going to put 2,000 persons on payroll this year. 1,000 will become for replacement process, the other 1,000 will become for direct employment. People carry the bank accounts and things, and so we're promised that this particular August, we're going to get on payroll celebration again. We're paying to the classroom through a very rigorous process, coming from the PTA, going to the part of the office of the GEO, that yourself giving the people so the council with the CEO are aware that we are in it. So the process was very rigorous. We carry out documentation in our guys, because before you go to the classroom as a volunteer teacher within the MOE sector, you must have at least a C certificate replacement period. That is the minimum qualification. And I think almost everybody was vetted by the ministry, went through the rudiments, met the necessary qualification, upon which the ministry told us that we're going to be placed on payroll. Based on that, we are then hopeful. We were moderate, we were patient last year with the hope that things were going to get fine. So we accepted it in this year again. So we are calling all our volunteers to not go to the classroom, and Massive Britain is telling us that they cannot put people on the field in the middle of the budget year. That's the charade. They have lied to us. That yourself, they have told us they are paying, meaning they are not prepared for us to go on the field anytime soon. So until the ministry is ready for us to go on payroll, we'll pop out the classroom. Because if you go to the classes, the volunteer teachers are the ones that do the job. Those people who are in person are not doing the job. We come to realize some schools got 15 volunteer teachers. Some schools are only 3 employed teachers. Rest of them are volunteer teachers. So
Patrick Walker is the spokesperson of the volunteer teachers. In Guinea, the campaign for the September 21 constitutional referendum is off to a subdued start. Launching on Sunday, August 31, the opening day saw no major rallies, neither from the government nor suspended opposition parties, who remain barred from political activity. Only a handful of pro-transition groups held small celebratory gatherings in Conakry. Imo Eda tells us more in this report.
The campaign for Guinea's September 21 constitutional referendum has officially begun, but without the usual political noise. On Sunday, August 31, the first day of campaigning opened calmly in Conakry, the capital, with no large-scale rallies. The government and suspended opposition parties remain silent as the opposition remains barred from political activity. Only a few pro-government groups marked the occasion. Several hundred supporters of the Yes vote braved the morning rain to march peacefully from the People's Palace to the Presidential Palace, wearing T-shirts with the image of transitional President Mamadi Doumbouya and slogans backing the proposed constitution. In the suburbs of Hamdalaye, another small gathering echoed support for the transition. Supporters say banning opposition parties is justified due to violations of legal procedures, but not all citizens agree. Some voters voiced concern over the lack of political balance. Meanwhile, the opposition coalition known as Force Vive is planning a protest for Friday, September 5. They are expected to announce whether they will call for a no vote or a boycott. For now, the campaign begins quietly, but tensions may still rise.
With that report, let's move to Benin, where the ruling coalition has named Finance Minister Ramoldu Wagadni as the candidate for the 2026 presidential election. The announcement made by the Progressive Union for Renewal and the Republican bloc ends months of speculation over President Patrice Talon's successor. Wadr, 49, is known for his strong record in financial management and has served as finance minister since 2016. His nomination is seen as a move toward continuity, while opposition parties are working to unite behind a single candidate. Meanwhile, we have been picking the views of some Beninese on Ramoud Vagani's being named the successor to President Patrice Talon. Have a listen to some of them.
I view the possible candidacy of the current Minister of Economy and Finance with hope. It could bring both continuity in governance and a fresh new drive. Mr. Wadani has been at the center of the system, mobilizing resources and managing cooperation. He is a key figure as Minister of State and as a young leader with strong credentials and a solid record. He stands out.
Having a young person lead the country is good. It shows Benin is moving forward and mindsets are changing. That's what we, the youth, want. But the real question is whether he will work for the youth or for the old guard that refuses to step aside.
It's predictable. He is loyal to the head of state and represents continuity of the president's agenda.
The problem is that economists don't let money flow. If he takes over, he may do exactly what the president has done, and that could make life harder for us.
Also, some Beninese is sharing their thoughts on Ramoud Wadagni's selection. We do have more conversation on this on our guest interview segment. Well, you're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's President Mahama removes Chief Justice over misconduct. Senegal's president calls for agricultural investment revolution in Africa. Guinea's referendum campaign begins quietly amid opposition silence, and Liberia volunteer teachers protest at president resident over unpaid salaries. Still ahead in the news, we do have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We cross over to Mali, where authorities say K region remains under curfew following coordinated attacks on July 1, 2025 that struck K city and 6 other towns. Initially imposed by Governor General Musa Samoure to restrict movements between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., the curfew has since been extended twice, with the current order running until September 30th from midnight to 5 a.m. Authorities say the measure is necessary due to persistent threats, despite Malian forces neutralizing more than 80 attackers and seizing weapons during the July raids. The restrictions affect over 813,000 residents in a region critical to Mali's western border and trade routes with Senegal and Mauritania. UNHCR reports that K recorded 101 security incidents and 222 civilian casualties in the first half of 2025, underscoring growing instability in an area once less affected by violence. Governor Samoure has urged continued vigilance and praised both the armed forces and local population for their resilience. To diplomatic relations now, a U.S. congressional delegation led by Senator James Austin Scott has visited Burkina Faso, meeting on Friday with the president of the Transitional Legislative Assembly. Discussions focused on security and development. Christopher Aticho reports.
Talks between the U.S. delegation and the Transitional Legislative Assembly centered on development and security, issues that remain critical for Burkina Faso and other AES countries facing both insecurity and development challenges. Here is Senator James Austin Scott speaking during the visit.
We had a wonderful discussion with the Speaker.
We came to meet the President of Parliament, together with Democratic and Republican representatives, and held a very constructive discussion
election. In a spirit of unity, Democrats and Republicans sought to demonstrate our support for the country in strengthening both its economic and security partnerships. I believe this represents one of the first steps in the right direction. We also addressed the issue of agriculture, ensuring that the country has the necessary resources to feed its population. Furthermore, we discussed the security situation across Burkina Faso with the objective of supporting efforts to improve safety and stability throughout the territory.
The visit comes as Burkinabe authorities highlight progress in the fight against terrorism. According to Defense Minister General Celestine Simpori, 72% of the national territory is now under state control. He also reported that more than 1 million internally displaced persons have returned to their areas of origin.
Our Ouagadougou correspondent Martin Keba's report, voiced by Christopher Aticho.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, now, in Benin, the wait is over. Finance Minister Ramoldu Wagdagni has been officially named the ruling coalition's candidate for the 2026 presidential election. The announcement by the Progressive Union for Renewal and Republican bloc puts an end to speculation over who will succeed President Patrice Talon, who is stepping down after 2 terms. Wadagni, 49, is widely respected for his financial expertise and has held the financial portfolio since 2016. His nomination signals a push for continuity. But is his support within the ruling camp as unified as it seems? Well, to help us analyze if Ramul Wadagni truly have unanimous backing within the majority of the party members, let's join our guest and political analyst Morgan Asogba.
Well, let's start by saying that the gentleman is a well-equipped gentleman in terms of knowledge, in terms of ability, and in terms of skills, because he has been focused in the financial world. He grew up in Benin and spent some qualitative time abroad because he studied in France and then moved to the US, where he ended up getting some good certificate from Oxford. And then he has been one of the key actors, youngest actors of the well-known firm called Deloitte. So he has a very interesting professional background, which justifies somehow the reason why he has been leading the Ministry of Economy and Finance. So when you look at that and you look at the political environment, it is difficult to attach to him any other political background different from what he just did the 10 past years as minister. And he was not too much in the political field. He was mostly in the technical areas, and it appears that his skills has allowed Benin to raise a lot of funds abroad and from some key actors, financial actors.
Is this like a general endorsement?
It's too early to say that it is a general endorsement, because when you look at those who have been into politics and who have been strongly involved in the leadership of President Patrice Talon, he was not obviously the one that people will have accommodated to be the one being chosen by the 2 political parties. But it is something that came out, and the coming days will let us really see if it is a general endorsement or some people are just quiet because of some political parties' internal deals that we are not aware of. Indeed. But as it stands right now, it is the choice of the political parties, and obviously one of the key actors that the president is supporting to stand for the coming elections.
Wadagmi's main rival in the April 2026 election is likely to be the candidate of the Democrats. That's the party of former President Thomas Boniyaya. But their candidate is not known yet. You think whoever they may bring up will stand a chance with this man that is from the ruling party and also well known in the economic world?
I think any candidate that will come out today will stand a chance if there is no general endorsement within the two political parties backing up the ruling party or the ruling leadership. So if it comes to the public knowledge that there are some disagreement within the political parties and there are some political deals that goes on before the elections, any other candidate with a solid political background could stand a chance. But if ever it is established that we are having a general endorsement, looking at the political reforms that have been made throughout the 10 years of leadership of President Patrice Talon, it will be highly difficult because currently in Benin, the laws have been so clear that whoever is backed up by the majority of the political parties has a very huge chance of winning the election. So it will all depend on the contest and the dynamics that will follow up within the next coming months or days.
Mr. Morgan, thank you very much for your insight.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, Morgan Sogba is a political analyst there, speaking to my colleague Imo Edet. Well, let's bring you some sport news, because the World Cup qualifiers is at the corner, because this weekend there will be games all over the world, but we are interested in what's happening in the continent that is Africa. And about that, Senegalese national team players have begun arriving in Diamniadio to begin their training for the upcoming 2026 World Cup qualifying matches. Among them is the return of star player Sadio Mane, who's been recalled. Also, Khalidou Koulibaly, Pape Matar Sarr, and Habib Diarra were all spotted upon arriving, sparking enthusiasm among the fans. The first training session took place this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. and was open to the public, giving fans the opportunity to catch a glimpse of their stars in action on the pitch. Senegal, which aims to consolidate its position in the qualifying group, will prepare its squad as best as it can for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers against Sudan on Friday before playing against DR Congo later on. Interestingly, today is the deadline day for the transfer news, and there are some African players, of course, who will also be moving from one club to another. Some of the transfer news, according to reports, including Johan Wissa, the Congo international, who is expected to move from Brentford to Newcastle. Also, in other stories, we've seen Isak moving from Newcastle to Liverpool. Maguire is also expected to move from Crystal Palace to Liverpool. Brobby will move to Sunderland, according to report. Manchester United's Jadon Sancho could also move to Aston Villa for a loan deal. Meanwhile, Le Mans could also from Antwerp to Manchester United. Harvey Elliott from Liverpool to Newcastle. Hodlund could also move to Napoli. Donnarumma from Manchester, from PSG, Paris Saint-Germain to Manchester City. All these deals are not yet confirmed, but it is a transfer deadline day, so expect a lot of movement among players from one club to another. Well, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Ismail Kamara for the technical assistance. To interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at WDR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Sankuli Janko. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM, Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinion.